live for the Indiana primary. I think we're starting just on time. I just got in it at the last second. And we got about 15 minutes till we start getting some results. So, not a lot of people in just yet. Plus, I know it's kind of early in the day for some people, and it's not a significant primary. This is just Indiana. But we haven't done a stream in about 6 weeks, something like that. So, this one worked out. I figured, let's do a stream. Let's get on here, see what happens. So here we are. So it should pick up a little bit as time goes on, as always. And I assume the audio, the video, it's all good. And we're underway, so glad you can stop by. And we've got Benico, you're in Indiana. Fantastic. Well, this is your stream. Thanks for stopping by. You're the first comment. So, Indiana, 6 p.m. Eastern Time is when those polls close. We've got the countdown here on New York Times. About 12 minutes. So if you're from Indiana, how's it looking there for you? What are you thinking about these primaries? We've got governor. And, well, at the top, we do have president, but more focus is going to be for governor. There's also the U.S. Senate. But again, not a whole lot of drama in these particular races. In that U.S. Senate race, though, we do have two Democrats going at it. Jim Banks on the Republican side is pretty much uncontested. So it's going to be Banks against Mark Carmichael or Valerie McRae. But governor is probably the little bit more high-profile contest, although the Democrats, their side is uncontested. They have former Republican Jennifer McCormick, the superintendent of public instruction. Republicans have Mike Braun, current U.S. Senator, Brad Chambers, Suzanne Crouch, and they've got more. They've got a lot here, but Mike Braun is the heavy favorite. I put a poll out asking if he's going to hit 2/3. I figured that seemed like a reasonable threshold, because unless something happened in the last day that I'm unaware of, I think Mike Braun is he's gonna take it. All right, so you've just arrived. You used to live in NA. Not sure what NA is actually referring to. Could be a couple different things. It's not one of your typical states. You cannot vote because you're 16. I see. Well, either way, uh, nice to have you here. Maybe you know some people that are voting. Even if you're not voting, you want to follow what's going to happen. It is your state, after all. So, gotta let this thing build up, let people show up. I'm sure people are still working. They're not going to be able to come by for an hour or two. I'm not sure how long we're going to stream. Again, it's just Indiana, pretty much. Here is the schedule. So we're looking at Indiana. We do have the U.S. House there, too. Of course, that's going to be in there. And then next week, there is action. We've got Maryland, Nebraska, and West Virginia. So more action next week and then the week after. But today we've got Indiana. Crossroads of America tonight. Suppose we do want to see what Trump and Haley pull in on their margins. Don't really care. The primary numbers, I don't put a lot of weight on them, especially given the race is kind of over. but we'll see what it shows. Uh, you're a Democrat doe, okay? Your dad and mom are voting Braun and Banks. Well, those are the two expected winners here. Certainly, Banks, he's already the presumptive nominee. Braun looks like he has it in the bag. He's making that jump from the U.S. Senate to the governor's mansion. He's at least attempting to. He did one term. So he took down Joe Donnelly back in 18 in the blue wave. Braun took down Donnelly. Now he's deciding to make a lateral move, however you want to call it, but he's going to go for the governor. Crouch not a favorite? Well, I mean, I think Braun is more high profile. He got endorsements. We could pull that up here. Here's the polling. Braun, there's not a ton, but the most recent, Braun has a massive lead. Still 26% undecided. Not sure if another poll has come out that just didn't make it onto this Wikipedia page. But with the financing, it is pretty close there between Braun, Brad Chambers, and Suzanne Crouch, and Eric Dodden. I'm not even familiar too much with him, but there is a lot of funding going into this race. But if you take a look at the endorsements, Trump has given Braun his endorsement. That kind of means something in a state like Indiana. Now, Suzanne Crouch, she should theoretically be a strong competitor. Maybe if Braun was not in this race, but her status as lieutenant governor does not look like it's going to outweigh a sitting U.S. senator who's backed by Trump. I just don't think there's any energy behind Crouch, although I'm not following this extremely closely. But Braun looks like he's going to take it handily, unless there's a complete upset. It's always a possibility. Okay? We've got David Andrews just voted for the first time. I think I missed that earlier, but Braun and Banks, yeah, covered that. I don't know why he would do it. I maybe he stated why he wants to leave the U.S. Senate. Maybe it's just not for him. You know, he's a business guy. Maybe he'd rather be in the governor's mansion because that's more of an executive position. He's not part of all these other members of the U.S. Senate. He has more direct control, being in the governor's mansion. That might just suit him more. I can see that a little bit. We've got U.S. House races as well. We've got a few open seats. The 8th District and the 3rd District, I believe, is Jim Banks has decided to go for the U.S. Senate. So that one is going to be open. And in that one, we do have Marlon Stutzman here, former Congressman Marlon Stutzman. He's coming back. He's trying to make a comeback. So we'll see if that kind of name ID puts him over the top, or if voters are ready to move on from Marlon Stutzman. And Greg Pence, brother of Mike Pence, he's also not going to run for re-election in the 6th District, I believe. And even in the 5th District, Victoria Spartz, she had said she's going to retire, and then she kind of pulled that back, and now she's actually running for re-election in that 5th District. That's the northern suburban Marion County district. They did do some redistricting. It's a lot redder now, a little bit north and east of Indianapolis. Anyway, we are about 3.5 away from some results. So, again, great to have you stop by. Maybe this is your first stream. Maybe you've been here for 1, 2, 3 other ones. Either way, it's early in the day. I know this is not the most convenient time to start a stream, but it's been a month and a half, so let's do one. Your mom only voted Braun because he's Trump endorsed. Yep, the Trump endorsement. It's going to carry weight in certain states. And yeah, he probably is. He probably didn't find his groove in D.C. Swinger, hello. You made it. Thanks for showing up. And early, too. We'll see who else decides to stop by. Not sure how long we're going to stream. Again, it's just one state. Maybe we only do an hour and a half. Maybe we do 2, 3 hours. Who knows? But there's not a ton of action here. The biggest thing I'm looking at is probably the margin for governor on the Republican side. But there's other things to take a look at. So that's what we're going to do. We'll sit here, we'll do a kind of community stream, do some hanging out. Now that we're into May, now we're just about, we've cracked 6 months until the election. Now it's very early, I would say, election season. Just barely into it. And we're still putting out videos. We're doing it every day. We've got some content at least every day. That's the goal. That's what we've been doing. So what else can we do in the meantime? We can take a look at, here's some polls out today on Real Clear Politics. Not a lot here, but we've got something out of Pennsylvania. And looks like Trump is up 49 to 45. However, Bob Casey, he's also leading by 4, so he's outperforming Biden by about 8 points. David McCormick at 44 to Casey's 48. That's one of the better polls I've seen there for the Republicans. Casey being down under 5 and Trump being up 4 points. I haven't really checked at the crosstabs, but that's a solid poll. You didn't realize there was a stream? Well, you made it anyway. Just 10 or 15 minutes in. I had it up for about 4 days or so. It was up as an upcoming stream, so I didn't just spring it at the last second. But thanks for making it. All right, so the polls have officially closed in Indiana. So we're going to sit here on New York Times for the most part. Seems to be the crowd pleaser. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if we get some results. Now, Indiana is not entirely in Eastern Time. Northwest and the Southwest, those do go into Central Time. But most of the state is in Eastern Time. So yeah, how's everybody doing? You excited for this stream? Excited for Indiana? One of these races in particular, or there's other topics out there. There's other things we could always discuss, take a look at, because we're going to have some time, especially if this goes on for a few hours. How long will I be streaming for? You've got to go to class in 15 minutes. You'll be back. Well, yeah, as I was just saying, I'm not sure. Uh, a lot of it depends on how many people show up, how many comments, questions there are, how much demand is there. The demand is a big factor when it comes to, well, a lot of things, but the streams in particular. But I would expect to at least do another hour and a half at a minimum, I would guess. But it could go way over that. But I don't think I would. I think in total I would do at least 2 hours. So we're only about 17 minutes in. So probably more than an hour and a half at a minimum. Even if nobody shows up, I think I'd sit down here for a couple of hours just to say that we did a full stream. So yeah, do what you need to do, whatever you want to do. We'll be here for at least another hour and 40 minutes. But yeah, I get it. It's the middle of the day, kind of. Work, school. There's a lot of things that are going to get in the way of people making this stream. And plus, Indiana, it's not the most compelling state right now. But next week, might be able to do another stream next week. It's a possibility. That would be these three states here: Maryland, Nebraska, and West Virginia. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, we've got the polls closed in Indiana. So we'll see what we get here. Looks like Biden is uncontested on his side, but Haley is still on the ballot. See what happens there. So again, we're mostly today we're looking at the U.S. Senate and the governor's election. For U.S. Senate, though, it's really a one-sided race. Jim Banks is already the presumptive nominee for the GOP. The Democrats have this two-way battle here between Mark Carmichael, let's get that right, and Valerie McRae. Now, Carmichael has already tried to run in the U.S. House, I believe, back in the 90s. We could take a look at that. Yeah, I guess he ran in 96. And Valerie McRae, she does trail Carmichael in the funding department. Not that Carmichael has raised all that much. Only 111 grand. And this race is rated it's rated safe, solid Republican, which is what I would also rate it as. There's only one poll here from way, way back in October. Jim Banks against McRae was up by 9, 47% undecided. And we've got some U.S. House races to take a look at. There's a few open seats. The 3rd Congressional District. That is the Jim Banks district, so that's open. And then we've got the 6th district. That is Mike Pence's brother, Greg Pence. He is not running for re-election, so that's going to be an open seat. These are all safe red districts. There's not going to be anything to look at in the general election, but there are some Republicans running here for this district. So that could be interesting. And the 8th district, that one is also open. So a few races to take a look at. Let's see if we got anything yet. We do not. We'll try to fill the time. There we go. Just like that. We've got a drop here. We've got one county, Fayette County, 31% of the vote. Donald J. Trump, 84%. Nikki Haley, 15.6. And Biden, we're not going to get anything there uncontested. Nothing in the other races. So that's all we've got so far. Less than 1%. All right. Poppy Trump on his way for the 2024 sacrifice. Not exactly sure about the intent there. Don't want to read too much into it. Percent does Haley. What does she get? 15 to 20? I really don't know. I would assume it's less than 15, but 15 would seem a little high, but then again, who knows? And then there's also the open primary factor. I actually haven't even kept up on which states have the open primaries. That would be a factor. That would be something to take a look at. If primaries are ever open, I do think that it kind of makes the results just very unreliable in terms of correlating it with the general election. There's so many primaries over the years where it just does not have a lot of bearing on the general election. I mean, sometimes it does for sure. All right, we've got something here in the Senate. We've got Valerie McRae opening up about an 11-point lead here over Mark Carmichael. Only 124 votes. This is going to be a red county. State legislator as well. That is something else. If you're from the state or really into local races. And governor has just popped. We've got Braun. He opens up a lead. He's at 45. Brad Chambers, second place. Then Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch at 17. A lot of Republicans vying for this governor's nomination. 6 of them here. All right. You like the voting history Mike Braun had made in the Senate. Might need a refresher on his history making vote. Let's see. It's possible I miss a story or two. A lot of action this past couple of weeks for me. So it's been tough to make some of these videos and to follow everything. So let's see. So again, yeah, if you want to refresh on that history, please mention it here. I'll tell you if I've heard about it or if it escaped me. But anyway, we've got a little bit more here. A couple more counties reporting some results. And then who knows if early vote is counted. I didn't really look way into the specifics of early vote and open primaries for this particular state for this stream. I just wanted to get on here, see what happens. Again, had a lot of action. It's very tough to fit this in, but I figured I want to do a stream, given it's been about 6 weeks. All right, 1% in. Maybe Haley does better than we all think. Who knows? All right, taking off. Thanks a lot. We'll see you back here in a little while, hopefully. Braun now. We've got a second county here for governor. And Braun is really up to a 62% lead. I should have put out a poll asking if Braun's going to hit 2/3 vote. That was the poll. I think it's still up there. But I think Braun is probably going to win this thing. And it's very likely Braun is going to win. There's just too many candidates. He's a big name. He's got the Trump endorsement. He's currently in the U.S. Senate. It's tough to imagine Braun going down. I know there was a debate. I wasn't able to watch much of it, but maybe you saw some of this debate. Okay, we've got a little bit in the House. And so the Democrats are putting up Jennifer McCormick, and she's the former Republican superintendent of public instruction. And that's similar to what happened in Oklahoma, where in the last governor's election, Democrats put up a former Republican superintendent of public instruction. And she lost pretty bad to incumbent Kevin Stitt, but maybe that's an ideal move to put up a former Republican. Or maybe it's not a good move. All right. So a lot of red counties reporting here. I think for this Democratic U.S. Senate primary, I think Marion County is going to be the one to take a look at. It's good, where a lot of blue vote is going to be. Also in the Northwest, Lake County. So, what have we got? Well, Haley up to 24. I should look this up if it's an open primary or not. It's always different in every state, the different rules. It's very tough to keep track of it all, and I did not have much time before the stream to look at a couple of things. So I think that matters. If it is an open primary, then a lot of Democrats I could see voting for Haley because Biden is uncontested on that side. Anyway, about a half hour in, I think people are just starting to show up. And we've got a little bit of results here in Indiana. Their polls closed pretty early. So I know that it's early in the day for a lot of people, especially on the West Coast. This is like way too early. So I was on the fence about doing a stream, but a lot of times I'm unable to do it. I figured I'm going to do it today, even though it's Indiana. Let's fire it up. All right, Indiana is partially open as a primary. I guess you can cross party lines if you publicly declare your ballot choice. Okay, well, I guess it answers a little bit. Let's see. A lot of scattered red counties reporting. Waiting on Marion County. Maybe there'll be an upset in one of these U.S. House primaries. I don't think any of these can even flip in the general election. After redistricting, they're all pretty much locked in, except the first district is potentially competitive. Frank Mervan there, the Democrat. If it was a red wave, maybe he goes down. But I think that's the most competitive district, and it's not really competitive enough. All right, here we go. Well, that's what I just said. I think partly open primary state, yeah. So yeah, you're locked in if you declare. So maybe that's a factor in this. I don't know. I don't know how many Democrats are going to declare Republican and then have to vote in that entire primary. And then they won't be able to vote in some of these other primaries for their side. And then early vote is another factor. Again, I don't know if anybody could really just track the early vote procedure and the amount of time in every state and when they count it. But when we did the Ohio stream, we saw that one have the early vote counted right when the polls closed, and it was called for Bernie Moreno right away because the election day voting that all went heavily for Moreno, and that he ended up winning it comfortably. Matt Rogers, thanks for doing this. I'm pretty sure that's the stream, so my pleasure. I couldn't do it if people didn't show up. And sometimes a lot of people show up, sometimes not a lot of people show up based on the previous streams. But we're doing it. It would be nice if there was a lot of action, a super competitive primary, maybe, at least as far as a stream goes. When it's all uncontested or overwhelming, it's not that exciting. So, any races in particular, as Haley gains a significant amount of points over on Trump there, even though, of course, she's only in the mid 20s. Any races you're in particular taking a look at? Maybe it's in the U.S. House. Maybe it is in the state legislature. This third district for the Republicans, this is the one to take a look at, I think. Because again, Marlon Stutzman, former U.S. representative, he's coming back. He's trying to make a comeback. Oh, and he just falls here to second place. That was a huge vote dump for Andy Zay. So Stutzman trying to make a comeback. He's got to get through all these competitors. So this is going to be one to take a look at. This is the district that Jim Banks has decided to leave in exchange for running for the U.S. Senate. So a couple of small things to take a look at here tonight. So we'll be here just doing a community stream slash Hangout slash Indiana primary. It might be slow going, so we'll see how long we're gonna keep the stream going. Should go for at least another hour, though. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3 hours, who knows? Usually they do go on for a long time, so we'll see what happens. But glad you're able to stop by. Hopefully you've taken a look at today's video. Got a hypothetical between John Tester and Glenn Youngkin. That was today's video. Not going to spoil it. But there's a new video out every day. Put one out for the last 2 years. Have not missed one day. Plus, this Saturday, we've got the final round of the recent President's Spinner Battle. Some of you might be looking forward to that. Some of you might not be into that. That's fine. Some of you probably haven't seen it. And Braun now, with only 4% of the vote in, he's down under 38. So maybe this is actually going to be closer for Braun than we think. I did put that poll up right before I went on. So some people might vote in it after they see these results. Looks like it's going to be closer for Braun, but not sure yet. So Hamilton County, that has a lot of the northern Indianapolis suburbs. So there is some vote here. It's not just Marion County, although they do have quite a bit. So, okay. Most of these are just the solid red counties so far. So maybe you're new to the channel, maybe you've never been on here before. Either way, hopefully you find something on here that you enjoy. Got a huge variety of content. Put up new stuff every day. Try to cover everything that I can. A little bit slow going here. That's expected. Usually that's what happens, especially this is way early in the day and it's just one primary. Could have easily decided to just not do the stream. It would have been a lot easier for me. But I think it's just been too long since a stream, especially because we've gotten into primary season. But we're still 6 months out from the election. So much could happen over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months. Yeah, I think a lot of people wonder a lot of things. But, you know, it's good to have some element of mystery, right? 5% in. At least for president. 5% in for governor. Waiting for something out of these blue counties. Lake and preferably Marion County. Yeah, the most I do is I've narrowed it down to the Midwest. That's narrowing it down enough, I think. But either way, are any of these races jumping out? What are the races? Anybody into any of these specific races? I do want to follow this one here in the 3rd district, Republican primary. I actually am not really familiar here with Andy Zay. It could be something to take a look at. Let's do it right now. State Senator Andy Zay. One endorsement on here, but co-endorsed. Okay. Anyway, it's always interesting when someone who used to serve in Congress, once they try to make a comeback, we saw Dan Coates do it not that long ago in the U.S. Senate. He made a comeback. He served one more term. So we'll see if Marlon Stutzman can do it. All right. Slowly, we're getting a few more results just trickling in. Things might pick up. The stream might pick up also as it gets later in the day. I try to give enough notice for the stream, but this one might not actually be all that exciting. But at least we've got something to look at here. We've got Indiana. Suzanne Crouch is in 2nd place now, lieutenant governor. Six candidates here vying for this nomination on the Republican side. Curtis Hill, he's notable, but he's only pulling in 3.5. Okay. 5% in, 6%. Be nice to get this up to maybe 20%. We'll see where things are at. Which states are up tonight? Just Indiana. That's it. Here's the schedule. Tonight it's Indiana. Next week we've got action though. Again, we've got Maryland, we've got Nebraska, and we've got West Virginia. 3 states next week. Then there's more action the following week. We've got 4 states. And we're pretty much going full speed into primary season. There's going to be a lot of action this month and next month and even the month after that. Got the conventions. Those are coming up as well in July, August. Indiana's politically fascinating. Pretty conservative for the Midwest. He had voted for Obama in 08. Had a Dem senator. That's true. They had Joe Donnelly there. Mike Braun, he beat him. And they did vote for Obama in '08 very narrowly. That seems like a completely different era at this point. 2008, Obama, he did well with voters in the Midwest, the Rust Belt, blue collar, working class type of voters. He was able to have enough appeal there. But since then, not so much. You predict R plus 18 for Indiana in November. That probably works. That does not seem unreasonable. Now, with Mike Pence not on the ballot as his running mate or vice president, does that really affect it? Probably not really. And also, Pence, he narrowly won his race for governor back in 16 or 12, excuse me. Got to go back to 12. So yeah, Indiana can be a little fascinating. It's not, it is a red state, but yeah, as you pointed out, there are some instances where the Democrats have had some success. Joe Donnelly winning that Senate seat, that that was also in 12. That was impressive. Still got not a lot of vote here. We're under 10%. Rando, hey, you didn't know there was a stream. Well, I had it up for about 4 days. It was in the upcoming stream section on the channel. I did not just spring it at the last second. I didn't mention it in any of the videos, but I did have it upcoming for I think about 4 days or so. But if you have notifications on, I'm sure you'll get a notice once I'm going live. But yeah, this is going to be a stream. It's been a while. There's not exactly a ton of action here tonight. But we're going to follow it and also do kind of a hangout community type of stream. See what people have to say. Probably a few questions. Because this is about 6 months out from the general election. So we're just going to start to get into it. But it's not really going to heat up. Well, probably until October is when it's really going to heat up. But I would say the conventions are going to be something that they could be spicy, especially for the Democrats. But I know a lot of people they've been convinced they know what's going to happen in the election, even 4 or 5 months ago. They've taken a look at the polls and they say this can or cannot happen. And, I've always been wide open. I generally disagree with people that are confident in what's going to happen, especially when it's probably going to be competitive and narrow. Things can change. I always say that. So, I mean, people on here, they're going to follow politics, but there's a lot of people who really, they don't care about politics. They have no interest in it, but they're going to vote still. Maybe 2 weeks before the election, they'll take a look at who's running and, how they feel about these candidates. But everybody does not follow politics to the extent that people on this channel do. Am I planning on doing a states explained episode for all 50 states? Well, the short answer is no, not for all 50. The main thing was to do the competitive ones. And I've done that. I've expanded it beyond that to some semi-competitive states. Um, but I don't think I'm going to do all of them. I might do something different because people have been asking about it. And those videos do take a lot of time to make. It is a lot of effort. It's draining. So I might do something different for other states, something maybe a little bit more concise and shorter, just indicating the recent trends, recent voting results, what's been happening in some recent elections. Just kind of keep it on that kind of page and not go so much, not go into so much depth about turnout or third parties and maybe skip over the polling. Just kind of keep it a little bit shorter and show people what the states have been voting in the past few cycles. That's maybe what I'm thinking of doing, but that's still a little bit off. It's hard to plan out exactly what's going to happen, really beyond the next week. But I do think people like that series. I think it's good. Um, I'm glad people enjoy it for the most part. There's always a few exceptions, but it's a good series. But yeah, it does take a lot of prep, a lot of editing, and that's pretty much it. All right, we still got nothing here in Marion County. And third congressional district. Wow, we've got 5 candidates in double digits, over 14 points. Five. That's tough to do. I would like it if there were runoffs. I don't want somebody winning with 27% of the vote. That is completely unappealing for me. Some people don't care. I don't really want to see that. Trump releases shortlist for VP. Doug Burgum, Rubio, Tim Scott, and JD Vance. That was okay. He officially put that out. Again, I've been really busy the past week and a half to 2 weeks. Missed some stuff, but I've still kept the channel going pretty smoothly. Um, I did take a look at Predicted, I think a couple days ago. I saw Vance was moving up, and Tim Scott, he's been my pick since the beginning in terms of who I think is most likely to be picked. And I picked that a long time ago. Scott just seems to check enough of the boxes. He's not going to check every box, nobody is. But Scott might be the guy. It's not a guarantee, but Doug Burgum surprises me. I have heard Doug Burgum floated around. I don't know about Burgum. I don't think he adds really. To me, he's like Mike Pence. He's not from a significant state. He's bland. Uh, he's got the business background. He's wealthy, but I don't think Burgum is gonna help Trump much. If a lot of the discussion around Trump's weaknesses are suburban voters or black voters or women, Doug Burgum, I don't think is gonna do anything with that. And Marco Rubio, I mean, he doesn't seem like a bad pick from Trump's perspective. I always try to think what is Trump, what is he trying to gain from a pick? And I do appreciate the hearts, but yeah, Rubio probably a decent pick, but again, he's not really from that competitive a state, and Trump already seems to have made inroads with South Florida voters. So, and Vance just got into the Senate. I mean, a ton of people have no clue who he is, and he's probably a little bit too young, I would say. Um, but he's not from a significant state. I mean, Ohio is that might bolster him in nearby states. Maybe that helps him a little bit in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. I don't know, but I would not think he'd pick Vance. I think Scott is the safe choice. And Burgum, yeah, Burgum. That that's not doesn't seem likely to me. It doesn't seem enticing for the electorate. That's just what I think. All right, any up? Not really, not much vote dump here in the last few minutes. Private event, okay. Burgum for VP. Doug Vember. I mean, Burgum seems like a nice guy, but from an electoral standpoint, nationally, I don't, I can't understand why he would be the top choice. At this point, I'm going to take just a quick 1 minute break, so we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so those are my thoughts on some of the running mate shortlist contenders. You're surprised Trump didn't have a woman on the list? Shore up suburban women. I know that Nome is out. Yeah, what happened to Stefanik? There was a lot of talk about her a couple months ago. I didn't think she would be picked. And Nome, I didn't think Nome was a good pick. I did not think that would do much. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that does get suburban women excited seeing Christy Nome. But yeah, after the dog incident, I guess that's gonna ruin her campaign. Buckeye politics. Hey, you made it for the stream. I don't think I've seen you stop by for previous streams, so that it's a pleasant surprise. I'm taking it you're not streaming right now. I think that's a safe assumption. But yeah, hey, there's always some surprises on the streams. Usually something happens. The one stream had the internet drop. That was unfortunate. Bernie. Bernie Sanders is here. Okay, we're getting some regulars showing up. We got Bernie. You had no idea that I streamed election results. Really? Well, I've it's probably done about 6 streams or so. I did all the way back in the midterms. Back in 22, I streamed way back then when not a lot of people showed up for that one. But then I've been streaming for the significant events. I did Iowa, did the Iowa caucus, New Hampshire, and done a few streams. Did the 23 election results. But yeah, what about you? You doing a stream at any point? I'm sure other people are doing streams tonight as well. Some of the usual streamers. Okay. Scott offers the most as VP. He will win over black voters. He's a staunch supporter and won't steal the spotlight from Trump. That's pretty much what I'm thinking. That's what I think Trump should be thinking. He's a safe pick. How much does he help with black voters? Who knows? But even if it's 1 point, 2 points, maybe that's enough. But he's Scott. Tim Scott is a really nice guy. He seems very sincere and approachable. So that is another asset. I don't think Mike Pence was. I didn't think Mike Pence would be picked. So that was a surprise. But so I think we've all been wrong about a few things over time. But I don't think Pence was really that approachable of a guy. I thought he was kind of stiff. Uh, you think Braun will not get past 60 to 50? Wouldn't be surprised if Crouch makes an upset. Yeah, I put out a poll. I think over or under on this 2/3 for Braun. I didn't know what to put it at. I just put it up right before I got on. I thought Braun would have been doing better, even with only 9% in. But this is a crowded field. But if Braun doesn't win, that would be an upset. Because Braun is leaving the Senate for this position right here. And Crouch is the lieutenant governor, so she should be competitive in theory. But Braun does have the Trump endorsement. Um, okay. Are we talking about Tim Scott not convincing anybody? I think Trump should pick Burgum for VP. See, I don't get that pick. I mean, again, I think Burgum to me reminds me of Pence. He seems like a nice guy, business guy. He's got a lot of money, but I mean, he's not from a significant state, just like Pence really wasn't. But I don't think Burgum really adds anything. He would definitely not outshine Trump. That's for sure. But I don't think Burgum brings in anybody new unless you're really trying to go for, I don't know, it's some kind of evangelical vote. I don't really know how much Burgum is going to add, at least over the other potential candidates. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I would think Tim Scott would help a little bit, probably in those states, in the South, Georgia, North Carolina. Vance getting it. I don't know. I can't see Vance getting it because Vance just got in there. People don't know who he is. And he's kind of young. I know he's been rising in the betting markets, but I'd be surprised if it was Vance. Let's see. Washington Post released a quiz where you choose your qualities. It would make for a good Trump VP and make a short list out of your answers. I thought it might make a good future video. You know, you know, in theory it might, but the problem, whenever there's been any political quizzes or surveys that I've looked at in the past, frequently it's just so difficult to answer any of these questions. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because I think it's contextual. It really depends on the situation. A lot of times I just pick something and I go, well, I only half think this. So I don't think it really accurately reflects what I think a lot of times. And plenty of times I have no opinion on things. So I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place. I'd like to see maybe other channels do that. But I don't know. I don't know if it's exactly my kind of thing. Uh, uh, Maybe I missed some comments. I have had a lot. I've had a lot of action, not a lot of free time the past week or two to look way into things. So maybe I missed some comments. It's a possibility, but let's see. You've not been paying any attention, Indiana. Focusing on, I know you're focusing on New Hampshire. That I do know. Yeah, exactly. As I guessed. There's certain people I know that are associated with certain states, certain regular viewers. And yeah, New Hampshire, that is your state. Uh the GOP maxed out with black voters in 2020. GOP needs to focus on winning white working class. I believe that would be slash Midwest. Well, I think the theory is they did not max out in 20 at all. I mean the super early polls, showing such a lack of enthusiasm with black voters in relation to Biden that Trump could make a somewhat of a gain. I don't think it would be massive like a few of the polls I've seen, but if it's a couple of points, trying to expand the tent, as they say, everybody wants to do that. They want to bring more people in. Uh, let's see. Trump's VP should be someone that doesn't lose him any voters. That's why I think Burgum and Tim Scott are the best choices. I'm with you on Tim Scott. I think would be the safest choice for Trump. I mean, I've been saying that for 6 months, probably, maybe longer. But Tim Scott, I think, is the would do the least damage to Trump. And Tim Scott he has kind of an energy behind him. I don't think Burgum does. I don't think Pence does. Tim Scott seems sincere. Now he's probably going to get caught off guard on some questions and everything, but generally he seems like a genuine type of guy. And plus, he apparently wasn't going to run for re-election next time in the Senate anyway, so this might be a logical next step for Tim Scott. We're up to 10% here now. Mike Braun is up 16 points over Suzanne Crouch, but he's only in the high 30s. We've still got nothing in Marion County. We've got nothing here in some of these other blue counties like Lake. And let's jump back here. Got some U.S. House races. There's 3 districts that are open, and they're all on the Republican side. And all the districts in the general election should be safe. The most competitive one is in the Northwest. The first district with Frank Mervan, it's a blue district, and it should not flip, but it's probably the most competitive in the state since redistricting. Democrats only have 2 of these districts. They've got the first, and they've got the 7th. Your upcoming schedule. Again, today is just Indiana. Next week, we've got 3 states. We've got Maryland, we've got Nebraska, and West Virginia. There is some action, certainly in West Virginia, a little bit here in Maryland in the Senate. And I saw this question about the poll that came up for Osborne. I've not seen it. Uh, I've missed some stuff the past few days. But if it's new, I do want to see it. But again, I don't know if it's commissioned by him or who's behind it, what it shows. But in the end, I mean, there was we've seen over the past decade potential independent candidates making an upset. Remember Greg Orman? He was supposed to make a run against, I think, Pat Roberts in Kansas. And it looked like in the polls he might actually do it. But then the final week or two, not really. Pat Roberts easily won. So I generally am hesitant on third parties, or, well, yeah, in this case it would be Osborne running as an independent, I'm generally hesitant to think that they're going to seriously make a run in the end. Prior to the election, it does sound enticing. Um, okay. Let's see. Burgum is a tech guy. Comes across as softer than Trump. Scott isn't on the short list for any good reasons. Okay. Vance has zero shot. Tulsi is the most logical choice. Yeah, what happened to her? Is she still in the running? She's the only one who would most likely expand Trump's base for a whole host of reasons. One of them is to dip into possible Kennedy voters. There's that theory that that's a possibility. Vance won't be the VP. I would generally, that does not seem likely to me, but you know, I don't have all the answers. And again, we talked about Dan Osborne in that Nebraska Senate election. Oh, there's the answer. Now I'm getting to it. Public policy. We gotta, okay. They had a poll with Fisher up 4. I'm gonna have to pull that up. I want to see the percentages. And here's Real Clear Politics. Must not have even been on here. Here's the recent polling. Not a lot the last couple days. Pennsylvania, Trump up 4, Casey up 4. So that's an 8-point spread between Casey and Biden. Let's see. Supported Nikki Haley before she was endorsed by groups like the Koch brothers. Okay. Washington Post, that quiz. Oh, I covered that. I think you deleted that. I think I commented on that. I mean, poll quizzes and surveys are very tough for me to actually feel like I'm answering properly. And I don't know if that's the kind of video I'd really want to put up. I'm not sure. Did Braun say why he's retiring? I don't know for sure. I would guess that he probably one term is enough. That's my guess. And he wants to have more of an executive type of position where he's the one in control instead of being part of 100 senators in that chamber. If he comes back to Indiana, where he's from, sits in the governor's mansion, that might be what he's more used to because he is a business guy. That's my guess. This might not have been working for him. Let's see. Biden beat Obama's turnout with black voters. Trump's white working class turnout didn't keep pace with other groups. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I've covered so many of the different trends. Yeah, like in Pennsylvania. I mean, and even a lot of the Rust Belt, Trump did worse in a lot of the red counties. And in Philadelphia, actually did a little bit better. But who knows? It's really anybody's guess. And again, this is apparently a partially open primary. So take that how you will. And not sure about the early vote, how they counted it here, or what the extent of the early vote was. Wasn't able to look into that before I got on real quick. Let's see. Yeah, the first poll with Osborne up was sponsored by. Yeah, I think Osborne did sponsor that poll, and that was what that was like last year, right? Smart seat. Okay, yeah, we'll take a look at Sparts in the 5th district. She did retire and then she unretired. So she's getting a challenge here. Chuck Goodrich I haven't really followed the specifics of some of these local races, but she did retire and then unretire. That was surprising. There was talk that she might run for governor, didn't pan out. Uh, okay, you don't know much about Braun, but you don't really care for him from what I've seen. Fair enough, fair enough. Sometimes somebody might not just strike you the right way, or they might strike you the wrong way. Maryland House is packed with all the seats. I'm not sure if you mean for the primaries next week or something else. Greg Orman was favored at a time. Yep, I did mention that. It there's an appeal with independent candidates sometimes in deep red or deep blue states. Not exclusively, but that we see it. And in the end, it just a lot of times does not pan out in the end. So in this Senate race here, again, the Republicans, it's uncontested. Jim Banks, he's going to be the presumptive nominee. So nothing to watch there. He's probably going to win the general election comfortably as well. So this is kind of tantamount to victory here. The Democrats, this has been called now for Valerie McRae, 65%. Mark Carmichael, only 35. We got nothing out of Marion County, though. Got a little bit here in Hamilton, but nothing here in the Northwest. Monroe County is another, it should be another bluer county, college town. And it's been called for Trump as well, who's only at 76. Haley's at 23. I would not think she would have gotten that much. But again, I have not really looked into it. I wasn't even sure who was exactly even on the ballot. And now they just call it for Biden, who was uncontested. I don't know why that would be called after the Republican side. Um, let's see. Nebraska was Maryland for the Democrats. Probably saw Osborne a strong guy for the Dems in a red state. So they threw maybe Hogan in a blue state. I mean, it's natural to want to draw comparisons between different states and different elections, but sometimes, it's not going to be a strong correlation. But yeah, I do expect Hogan to sink, even though he's not running as an independent. But I also was not expecting Hogan to be up by like double digits. But he could easily be trailing by double digits in another 2 months. Even if he lost by 10, that's not a bad showing for a Republican in a deep blue state. Okay, you wish both Trump and Biden lose. There's a lot of voters that have that sentiment. That's where Kennedy might come into the picture. Uh, Maryland is more legitimate. Yeah, and I do think, yeah, in that state, Hogan, I mean, everybody knows Hogan. He was the governor 2 terms. He got reelected in a blue wave of 18 and kind of came back there and won for the first time unexpectedly in 14. And he just left office. So people know him. He's got sky high approvals. Greg Orman, it, I think a lot of people didn't really know who this guy was. Okay, Nikki Haley is leading here, 12% in. Uh, is this your real voice? Or is that a filter? You sound like we're born to be a political anchor. Well, this is this is the real voice. There's not a filter. The only thing I try to do is eliminate background noise, but nothing with the voice itself. And yeah, I've heard that a number of times. Every once in a while, I get a positive voice comment. And, sometimes everybody's voice sounds different. Certain videos, certain times of the day, things just sound different. That's going to happen. But if you're drawn to the voice, that's going to be no issue with me. I will absolutely support that comment. Anyway, what region am I in? I've said that the Midwest region. That would be a not an inaccurate description. So that's what I can tell you there. Oh yeah, hey, feel free to talk about the voice. Yeah, I don't know. The question for me is how much does that factor in to anybody's videos on any channel? What if somebody has great information or they have great opinions, but the voice is just, it's not doing it for you? Is that enough to abandon the channel? How much weight is the voice? Is it small? Is it a lot? I think that's my question. Not just for my channel, but in general. And it's not just, it's also about the cadence as well and all that, the inflection. It's not only just about the voice. And now it's all live, there's no editing anything out. Generally in my videos, there's a lot of editing to skip over mistakes or any misspeak. And Braun, it's been called for Braun now. With 15% of the vote in, Mike Braun is going to be the Republican nominee for governor of Indiana. He's going to face Jennifer McCormick, who is the former Republican superintendent of public instruction. We saw how that turned out in Oklahoma, where the Democrats also put up a former Republican superintendent of public instruction. She sort of seemed competitive at a time against incumbent Kevin Stitt, and then she lost by double digits. Now, that's a different election. It's a different state. Anything could happen. But Mike Braun is expected to win that election. Now, there could be a scandal. Anything could happen. But that race has been called. So what else are we looking at here? We've got everything called. We're going to have to go back to the U.S. House. And we've got some calls here. And let's see. Um, Vermont is a great state. Speaking of Phil Scott, you drove from Hillsborough County, New Hampshire to Franklin County for the eclipse. Oh, yeah, that was an event a few weeks ago. And Phil Scott, is he still undecided if he's going to run? I've missed a little bit the past week, but I didn't hear Phil Scott declare his intent. Same with Bernie Sanders. So that's what we're waiting on for Vermont. Uh, okay, I did answer that question about the region. It would not be inaccurate to say the Midwest. Uh, okay, you drove from Caledonia County for the eclipse. All right, we've got some Vermont eclipse talk. That works. Okay, Vermont getting some praise in the chat. Larry Hogan running his ad on the border on repeat. Robin Ficker, one of Hogan's, perennial candidate, Robin Ficker, uh, he decided to rip off Hogan's border ad. Oh, really? I is Hogan in any danger of not winning that primary? I know, like a couple of months ago, when Hogan declared he's going to run, some people were saying he might not win the primary. I said I don't think he would not win. I think he's going to win that primary. It's Larry Hogan, and as much as a lot of Republicans don't like him, in his state, it works. And if it's him or Robin Ficker, I think Hogan should win that pretty easily. But then again, we have to see what happens. Okay, as long as the voice is not something like Ben Shapiro or any other owning libs content creator. Okay, so then is that is I'm not sure, is that the sound of the voice then, or is that about the kinds of content and perspective they're presenting? So if everything is all equal and even, and you just substitute the voice, that's what I want to know about. If you do this channel, but you just mentioned Ben Shapiro, if you this channel with his voice, how much does that affect it? Or take anybody's voice you like or don't like and swap it around with another channel you do like or don't like. Um, Lots of forecasts and hiking. Oh yeah, back to Vermont. Okay, nice lakes. Okay, yeah, Vermont equals underestimated. Yeah, not a lot of people talk about Vermont. It's just one of those states that just doesn't get a lot of attention. Okay, you only listen to political YouTubers with cute, silky voices. Okay, is that good? Is that neutral? Is that bad? You hate LTE. Sounds like that weird worker from my local subway. Okay. Well, regardless of the voice, I'm sure whatever he's doing, it's working for him. So maybe a lot of times it's not about the voice. I mean, the channel growth here has been pretty slow. So do remember to like, share, subscribe. At least do that. That's very minimal. If you want to join the channel, become a member, that would be very helpful as well. Try to support the channel. Try to get as much support as you can give. It's always preferable to get anything extra. Not a lot of members have joined. There's not a lot of perks, but if you are into the channel, that is an option. Okay. Bernie announced Bernie did announce he's running again? That must have just happened. That's confirmed? Interesting stuff. Okay. You gotta go. Okay, you're at work. Gotcha. I've mentioned that. A lot of people, it's early for this stream, early in the day, especially on the West Coast. And plus, there's only one state here. So I know a lot of people are at school, they're at work, they're doing what they need to do to try to get by. So any bit of time you want to spend on here, that works. So all the main races here have been called. There's only 16% of the vote in, so we're pretty much waiting on the margins. And one of those counties is Marion County. That's Indianapolis. A lot of vote there, especially blue vote. So we want to see what happens there. Other than that, we're just pretty much hanging out here, looking at some U.S. House results, the state legislature as well. If you're looking at any of these super local races, wow, there are a lot. Could be some incumbents headed for defeat. We'll have to see. Here's a close one in the 8th. That's a 1-point race on the GOP side. Ooh, Marlon Stutzman is now back on top. We saw it earlier. And Andy Zay, what happened? He went down to 4th. He was in the lead. They must have called one of the counties he's from or something, because he's down to 4th. Wendy Davis reminds me of former nominee for the Democrats, Wendy Davis, who lost to Greg Abbott. back in 14, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Oh yeah, Bernie, thanks for stopping by. Sound and speed, okay. About the voice, Hogan right now is trying to seem conservative from what I've been seeing. Uh, I wonder if it's only during the primary or if he will moderate. I mean, he knows whatever he says in the primary is going to be played back in the general, but I have seen him do some interviews. He did seem to not, he's going after everybody, that's for sure. But he wasn't shy about pointing out problems that might be, you might not expect to hear from someone in Maryland. But that is an interesting race. There was no point looking at that state until Hogan got into it. I'm still going to think Hogan is not at all going to win, but if he continues to put up these leads in the polls of 8, 10, 12 points over the next 2 or 3 months, could be something brewing. Um, Okay, LTE and Red Eagle are the big ones, and both just seem like generic hyper-partisans. Red Eagle has become a little more reasonable and less blindly Trumpian. LTE has an amazing voice and is know-it-all. Oh, annoying. That's annoying voice. Let's get that right for the record. Gotcha. I haven't seen, I really don't really watch other channels really at all in a while. Not much because I'm working on my own stuff and I've got other things I do. So I don't really see what they're doing much. But I know other people do. And yeah, I guess those are the big channels. But maybe this channel gets big at some point. I mean, it's the growth is slow. That's for sure. It has picked up, but at the same time, over 900 videos every day for more than 2 years. And we're at under 3,000 subscribers. So who knows what the reason is? Maybe it's all keywords. Maybe people are promoting their stuff. Maybe they're much better on social media. Who knows? All right, Victoria Spartz in that fifth. She is ahead by single digits. In the 8th district, this is another one that is open. These are all red districts except for 2 of them, but this district, whoever wins the primary should pretty much be smooth sailing in the general election. So I haven't followed these local candidates, but this is what's happening. 3 open seats here in Indiana. That's a lot. Okay. Uh, you've been a sub for a quick minute. I've seen you around. I mean, I can't remember when everybody has subscribed, but I do recall a lot of these names for sure. It is the sound and speed. It's very smug and childish. You still wouldn't watch owning libs content. They are mostly unfactual and misleading. I mean, I don't know how that kind of stuff is defined, but I think it would depend on the specifics. I mean, there's always stuff you could own each side with if you look for it. I mean, there's enough content there, enough fodder for each side if that's all you want to do. And I think it depends. And sometimes it's nice to see certain things brought up, and sometimes certain issues are one-sided. And I think it is really case by case scenario. But again, I mean, I've put up I've mentioned the video I have, why both parties suck. That's the video I would recommend if people, which they do ask what some of my views are. And again, they're all over the place. But that video answers some of it. I'm a little bit more critical of each side for different topics. Some things I have no opinion on, so it's all over the place. So okay, Bernie announced yesterday. That's hmm. I will. I guess that's confirmed then. Finished homework an hour ago. Took 3 hours, and now you're relaxing here on a leisure stream here. This is where the serenity is at. Delaware's having a problem right now with kids bring weapons to school. Okay, I think you were mentioning some of that in the comments. I mean, a lot of local issues I'm not going to be able to speak to. Okay, you've never been to Delaware but have been to Pennsylvania. All right, Marlon is a great first name. It's an unusual name, I would think. And he already served in the U.S. House, so people should know his name. So he's trying to make a comeback, and we've seen comebacks before. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mentioned Dan Coates in the U.S. Senate back in 2010. Coates came back, and he won. He served one term, and then he left. Sometimes it works. We also saw Evan Bayh, and former well-known governor Evan Bayh, he tried to run in the U.S. Senate. Did not work. He lost. We've seen governors make comebacks before, and it doesn't pan out. I did a video on this, I think, probably a year ago, about governors that try to go into the Senate, and a lot of them doesn't work. Steve Bullock in Montana, that's one. He lost by 10 points, but he's popular. Didn't work. Um, would have been the most, would have bullied the most political YouTubers in high school. Okay, I not. Is that one of the previous channels? You know, some of these I'm reading like 5 minutes after, trying to cover everything the best I can. I watch the small channels, whether they're liberal, political shadow, or conservative. Real American. Yeah, I always encourage people to look at a variety of sources. If somebody is overly partisan, that doesn't mean you don't ever take a look. Sometimes they're going to be right on some things. And you don't have to, just because you watch one channel, even if they're partisan, doesn't mean you have to like everything about them. I mean, it's hard, I would think, for most people to agree with anybody, even 90%. You know, if you hit 50%, I would think that's probably a pretty good victory. Clickbait titles, look at REP's recent Trump vid titles. They're reminiscent of Telegram boomer posts. Hmm. You know, that is a good aspect, the titles. And if you're getting the views, I don't think people care about any kind of clickbait titles. I try not to really do that. But maybe I should. Maybe that would be bringing in a lot more viewers. That's the question. It's a delicate balancing act on what to figure out, or how to figure out what you want to go for, what you want to avoid. It's way easier said than done. Red Eagle is always calling everyone a rhino, but it's calmed down a bit. Okay, I don't know why he changed. But he's had success. That's the thing. Once you get to a certain level of success, you're not going to care if you've alienated some people or if other people have labeled you as hyper partisan, why would you care? I mean, if you're trying to have success and you've gotten it, but maybe he's maxed out on his audience then. I don't know. Maybe everybody knows who he is and he's not really going to expand much. Who knows? Maybe he's just doing everything right behind the scenes. He's got the right promotions and keywords and he's got a lot of members. It's all a possibility. Try to watch independent channels for news from now on to avoid being brainwashed from corporate media. Like watching Status Coup. Hard Lens Media, okay. And of course this channel. Are they streaming? Who knows? Who knows what anybody's doing? There are a lot of channels out there. That's the thing. I don't even know a lot of them anymore. A lot of them have sprung up after I started. I try to do what I can to do is to try to have some kind of unique perspective, do different things, and do it as professionally as I can. You've been subbed for a year and a half. Then you are one that go way back. I mean, the first, I would say 6 months of this channel, it was very, very dry and slow. But a year and a half is getting up there now. We're up to 28 something. Hopefully we get it up to 3, 4, 5,000, 10,000. But the pace is slow. I'd like to get more people to join the channel. Then I could add more perks or something like that. But I also don't promote it a lot. Some people beg for people to support them and subscribe or donate right at the beginning of the video. Every video, the first 10, 20 seconds is just begging for support. I don't really do that. Maybe I should. Again, maybe this is working for people. All right. Watch liberal, conservative, and independent political channels. Local news, TV across New England, specifically CT and NH, Connecticut, New Hampshire. Red Eagle calls anyone to the right of Youngkin or people who don't bow and kiss Trump. Rhino. I do think a lot of people do that. I mean, that's what happens when you get into this kind of arena with politics. That's what you get. I mean, for the most part, I get a lot of comments that say this is good stuff and it's unbiased, it's totally unbiased, it's mostly unbiased. But once in a while, there's a comment that's somebody says this is totally biased. They somehow figured it out. That they expose this huge bias because of one sentence or something, and it's like, well, and then I hear the exact opposite bias as well. So I think if you're getting bias accusations from both sides, I think that speaks for itself. Let's see what we've got here. Let's go back up here and take a look at president. We've got nothing in Marion County, though. Now we've got something here in Lake County. Trump is at 86 there. And this county still has Haley in the lead. I'm guessing that's going to flip. And in the Senate, though, that's already called for Valerie McRae. She's at about 2/3 of the vote there. And Mike Braun is at 40% for governor. But it's uncontested with Jim Banks on the GOP side for Senate and Jennifer McCormick on the Democrat side for governor. Crowded race here. Crowded field for governor here on the Republican side. Curtis Hill, only 3.8%. So we're looking at the U.S. House, maybe some state legislator races. And we try to get through more of these. Okay, isn't this channel here, PE, not Weirdly ideological, so seems quite grounded. Usually, well, if you've been subscribed for a year and a half, I guess the question is, have you watched everything? 90%, 80%, 60%? What is it? And occasionally, yeah, there is some opinions I've given out. I mean, I've got some opinions. I don't want to completely avoid everything every time, no matter what. But most of the time, it's easy to just cover what's happening. Uh, okay, we're watching him and stopped quickly because I'm calling everyone a rhino. Okay. Yeah, Kelly Ayotte. She might be the next governor of New Hampshire. Similar with LTE, he started out more neutral, slowly got more and more left wing. I watched him a little longer until you found it. This channel. Interesting. You know, when I started this, I never thought people would shorten it to PE. I never thought that, but you know, I guess it makes sense. Technically, I started this 8 years ago on the blog. There's a blog about election stuff. Started that 8 years ago. So the channel, a little over 2 years. Since it's Braun, you'll vote Libertarian. Well, you've got Donald Rainwater, the Libertarian. He ran last time, and he had success. He was in double digits as the Libertarian in that governor's election. Braun has an interesting voice. I think it's a little it's a little unusual. I think sort of like Chuck Grassley. His voice, now that he's gotten kind of old, but his voice it stands out, at least in my opinion. If we're talking about voices, all right. It's also called Larry Hogan, Rhino. I try to generally I avoid labels, but I frequently present that those labels are what other people say. It's easy to say that Larry Hogan is considered a rhino. I mean, I've heard that so many times. I've read it. I get it. I'm not specifically labeling him that, but I know how other people see it. Speaking of Kelly Ayotte, Chuck Morris has moved insanely far right. His campaign manager called her dismally weak on the Second Amendment. He's gone insane. Well, you know, not specific to that race, but in primary battles or even in general election battles, if somebody starts sinking in the polls, you know, they do kind of a Hail Mary type of thing. They'll throw anything they can at it to shake things up. It kind of looks desperate sometimes. I'm not saying that it is or is not this time, but that is what happens frequently. You know, you don't want to just go down and take a loss. You want to try to do anything you can, and usually it's going to involve some kinds of attacks like that. Ooh, now we've got Andy Zay. Remember him who was just in fourth place a few minutes ago? Now he's back, and look at this. Four people at 20%. Four of them. And without any runoffs, I don't think that is satisfying. If somebody wins this nomination with 22% of the vote, 23, even 33%, that is that is pathetic in my opinion. And he's Andy Zay fans out there. Apparently he's a state senator. Uh okay. If you want to watch a conservative political commentator, I'd watch conservative Hawkeye politics. Oh yeah, is Buckeye politics still here? He stopped by. I don't know if he's still here. It's always nice when another channel stops by. That's kind of a rarity. Okay. Does anybody ever get on those channels and mention this channel? That's the question. I don't. Maybe other people don't like other channels mentioned on their channel, but yeah, 8 years ago. If you've checked out the blog, I mean, there's a link on the about section on the channel. I mean, that's been up there since I started the channel. But yeah, covering some data, political data, just random stuff. Plus, oldest governors, senators, that kind of thing. But that was back in 16. So prior to the 16 election, I've been doing some sort of political coverage. Amnesty Ayat, okay. I'll have to see if those if there's a debate with Morrison Ayat. Redigill thinks Carrie Lake is amazing, while conservative opposes her in the primary. You know, it's always nice to have a variety of opinion, I guess, even amongst specific segments of political channels. I mean, I would like to think that everybody does not think the same thing, even if they generally have a lot of overlap. I do like to hear specifics or specific differences. That's always what I find to be enjoyable. I like people that have something that doesn't just fit neatly into the expected box. I know if you have any views outside the establishment, the two parties do not like that. That's for sure. So we're looking at a couple races still. Braun now is under 40. I guess that poll I had, if it's even still up there, that looks like it's going to be way under 66. I thought about not even putting up a poll, and I was like, let me just put one up. Let's get it up. So, yeah, we've got 18 people here. I was not expecting a whole lot because, again, it's just Indiana. And it started early, and there's nothing really exciting happening in the state, but it's been about 6 weeks since a stream. Maybe there's a stream next week. I don't know. It's always tough for me to fit it in. I try to keep everything happening smoothly on the channel, but there's a lot of times a stream is not going to be happening, but this is happening. We'll see about next week, but and if you're looking for what's happening next week, again, here it's 3 states: Maryland, Nebraska, West Virginia. There's a little bit of action here in some of these states. West Virginia has a good amount of action for governor. Uh, Chuck is stuck in the past. Your congressman won his primary with only 22% and 18. Now he has safe blue. I'm not sure what district that is referring to. If it was mentioned above, I may have missed it. Oh, there it is. Oh, I remember. I remember looking up. I remember covering him in a video. Auchincloss. I remember saying it properly when I did the video, but I haven't said that name probably since I made the video. So, District 1 flipping. I don't think so. I think it's the most likely to flip, but I think it's still unlikely. I don't think Frank Mervan is going to go down. I think Republicans probably wish they redistricted a little bit better so they could have claimed that district in the Northwest, but it's going to be the most competitive. But do I think it's going to flip? No. If it was a big red wave, if something just massively develops, then I'm going to say I'll take a look at it. But short of that, I can't see it really flipping. But I'm not going to say never. I rarely say something is or is not going to happen. And who is even going to go up against Mervan in the first. It's going to be Randy Niemeyer. He's the guy. Not sure who he is. Lake County Councilor and Chair of the Lake County Republican Party. I don't think it's going to be a blowout for Frank Mervan. But I just it's to see that flip. I'd say it's unlikely. But again, we're still 6 months out. Let's see what happens. Who Republicans got, is it the same person? No, it's the last time it was Jennifer somebody. I've forgotten her name. I'm pretty sure it was Jennifer. Jennifer Ruth Green. There it is. Three names. I remember that. She endorsed Niemeyer. Okay. There was talk about her last time. Maybe flipping it. It didn't pan out. Um, so I think this is the time to take a quick 1 minute break that I've gotten caught up on everything. Right back. All right. So again, thanks for everybody. Thanks to everybody for stopping by, even if it's for 5 minutes, or if you're gonna sit here for the entire thing, which I'm not sure how long it's gonna be. We're up to 2 hours right now. Probably go for a little while longer at least. I would assume we're gonna hit another hour, but again, it all depends how many people show up and what's going on. Let's see what the latest news is here. All right, well, we've got Christy Nome. She's in the news. She put out a book. I guess it's made the headlines, so that's what we've got here. Um, 33% of the vote in. I think a lot of people wish they would count it as quickly as, I would say, Florida. But we do have some Marion County in now for president. Haley there with about a quarter of the vote in. She's at about 36. So if Haley pulls in 20%, I'm sure that's gonna people are gonna talk about that. Where Haley, she's been out of the race, she's 20%. I mean, again, my position on primary type of stuff, especially if it's not a closed primary, but even if it is, it's just a primary. It's so different than the general election. Sometimes it overlaps and it correlates, but I just don't put a lot of weight on it. Okay. Message retracted. Not sure if it was a nice, juicy message. So Braun, without a runoff, looks like he's going to win this thing easily. How high is it going to go? Could he get close to 45, 50%? And 8th District. This is an open seat. It's a red district in the Southwest. And the 3rd, Marlon Stutzman. He's got a. This is a really close 4-way battle for the nomination here. Look at these counties. Everybody winning counties here. We got 5 different people winning counties. That's impressive. And here, this is not a blowout here for Victoria Spartz, who announced that she's not going to run for re-election, but then backed out of that and says, yeah, actually, I do want to run for re-election. She's at about 39. We'll see what happens. That's the district here northeast of Indianapolis. It's got a good amount of suburbs. Okay, oh, well, parents are arguing. Hopefully that clears up. And the message is gone. Just like that. Let's see. Okay. And we've got a new message here. You agree on the primary. There can always be a development between the primary in general that brings out the vote. Primary vote count has very little to do with predicting the winner. Yeah, that's sounds like we pretty much agree. I mean, obviously, sometimes if the Democrats in a primary get a ton more votes than the Republicans, yeah, the general election, they might get a lot more votes. I mean, it's not completely zero information there, but with so many open and closed primaries, so many states that have competitive and uncompetitive races, it just, and plus 6 months out, I don't think it's that beneficial to read too much into the primary numbers. Got a lot of state legislator races here. A ton of them are, of course, uncontested, but looking for some sort of an upset here, maybe. Here's an incumbent trailing. Look at that. They're down significantly. Maybe there must be something notable about this district here. If this incumbent is only at 21% of the vote, but again, it is only 4% of the vote in, that could be a reason to totally disregard that kind of a gap. How about the state senate? Here's an incumbent that's trailing, but 16% of the vote in. And we got one here in the 3rd. So this one has 58% of the vote in. So that could be legitimately an incumbent being defeated here. Demographic changes and polls are a better way of making predictions on elections. Uh-huh, yeah. I can't say I disagree with that. I mean, the polls, though, I mean, there's going to be some variation there, especially 6 months out. But I mean, people love to disregard polls, especially when they're behind or their candidate is behind. But who could resist looking at polls? We got to look at something. Have I ever considered making a video on a larger international race, UK or Canadian parliamentary elections? That one I can probably answer and say it's just going to be US. International stuff, it drops off significantly for me. I mean, there's always maybe an exception here or there, but generally, no. This is it's all going to be U.S. Okay, this has been called Mark B. Mesmer, not to be confused with anybody else here. Luke Meisner. He's probably going to be the next congressman from this 8th district here in the 3rd. This is spicy stuff right here. Marlon Stutzman, he's ahead, but it's by less than 300 votes. Still got some counties with nothing reporting. Hmm. So the Democrats have 47% in here, and the Republicans have 31. I don't know why there's such a large disparity there. And I mean, I wish there was more to show here. And looks like in Marion County for governor, Brad Chambers, he's leading. He's in 3rd place overall, but he's leading in Marion. And Suzanne Crouch here leading in a couple. Here's Vigo County, the former Pinnacle Bellwether County. And I'm talking nationally. I think most people are familiar with Vigo County if you follow politics moderately. So we're just kind of hanging out here. I got all caught up on the chat messages, and now they've stopped completely. So what else is there? Again, there's polling today. This is all that we've got for today. We want to bounce around and look at a couple other things. We've got Pennsylvania from Fabrizio Anzalone. Trump is up by 4, which is that's respectable for Trump at Pennsylvania. But Bob Casey, he's up by 4 as well. That does not surprise me. I would maybe even expect Casey to be up by a couple more than that. But so that's an 8-point spread between Biden and Casey. Not much else polling wise today or yesterday. So what else do we have? Anybody else? Any races you're waiting to see? Anything you're following? Feel free. So Indiana. We've had somebody from Indiana here earlier. Maybe they're still here. Some people just lurk. That's that's all good. 12 people here. Was not expecting a ton for this primary this early in the day. So everybody else excited for the upcoming spinner battle, the finals, the recent president's finals. It's all leading up to a showdown between Kennedy and Bush. Great series. Probably try to do another spinner battle after that. Got suggestions. And then there's a video today. We've got Tester and Youngkin in a hypothetical. Check that one out if you haven't checked it out yet. Meanwhile, we've got a real tight one here. In the 3rd district on the GOP side. 5 candidates, actually over 11%, 4 of them over 18, and 3 of them over 20. It did get really, really quiet in here. 8 minutes of silence. That came out of nowhere. And it's got a little bit more narrow here. In the 5th. Now Victoria Sparts, who is Ukrainian. She's up by just over 5 points, 5.3. Okay, it's called for the Dems. Kylie Adolph. Interesting name. And look at this battle between Stutzman and Tim Smith. And don't forget about Andy Zay. Stutzman is only up by 102 votes. Some counties still have nothing in yet. And this one here in the state house, that one is continuing to be a massive blowout with 21% in. This incumbent is only at 17%. Something must be going on in that district, some kind of a scandal or something, to be that much of a landslide against the incumbent. Okay. Marlon Stutzman pads his lead very, very slightly. Maybe it'll be a pure tie, an absolute dead even tie in the raw vote. So that's about all we've got left to look at here. We're just doing kind of a hangout. We'll take a look at some of these margins. Marion County, that's where the vote is. It's where a lot of the blue vote is. But even in that county, Trump, I guess Haley is doing better there. She's up to 37. But the general election is going to be all different. I mean, not all different, but it could easily be not line up with these primary results. It's going to be a wild 6 months coming up. It's going to be completely crazy. I would assume the last month, I'd say, yeah, Trump has been in court a ton. So I don't know how that's affected the race, but if you go by the polling, it seems like it actually hasn't really affected it that much. I just put out my video based on the polling, the general election the other day. That was yesterday. And Trump has maintained his advantage in the polls. Now, maybe they're underestimating Biden this time. Maybe. Maybe they're underestimating Trump again. God, did the chat freeze? It's been almost 15 minutes with nothing. There we go. Wow. That seemed odd. They were pouring in and then they completely stopped for like 13 minutes. That seemed unusual. Uh, you're taking me grocery shopping. Keep the stream going. Okay. I hope you got headphones in. Unless you're gonna just blast this, you know, in the produce section. Don't want to disturb the other shoppers. But I do plan on keeping it going. I mean, at least for another 40 minutes to say I hit 3 hours. But after that, I don't know. I mean, it's tough to keep a stream going, with only 6 people in here. All right. Headphone jack with a win. But yeah, at this point, there's not much happening. I'm just talking. I'm just saying words. Everything's been called of note except the 5th district here on the GOP side and the 3rd district. Who knows if this will ever be called? It's so close. It'd be great to get somebody in here from this district who lives in this district and they can explain everything. But is it not unsatisfying if there's no runoffs? I mean, you could do ranked choice. I get it. I'm not against that at all for each primary, for each side. But not even any runoff at all. I don't really want to see that. I want to see somebody win with a majority of support. I don't know who could find it satisfying where somebody wins with 23%. But no runoffs, so somebody is going to win with probably a quarter of the vote or less. Yeah. Well, I think I'm with you. I'd rather have a runoff than nothing. Even if I mean the turnout for this is going to be low as it is. Yeah, the runoff is going to be low, but at least it's somebody. It gives the campaigns time to reset. That is one disadvantage I think with ranked choice. I'm fine with ranked choice, but I've always said I like it separated by party. Still, I'm not into a blanket primary. I want to see each side do their own primary. But the downside with that though is yeah, if you don't get to reset your campaign and get it down to just two people, because if you have 10 people in one primary or six people or five, it's just a lot to follow. If you have it a month later, have a runoff, it gives the campaigns an opportunity to reset, re-engage with voters, highlight their issues. That I think is an advantage of having a later runoff. But I get it. I mean, nothing's going to be perfect. Right. Oh, yeah, you're still here from Indiana. But not from this district, the third. If you're from the third, that's what I want to hear about. At least because of this race. I mean, look at these margins. But that's a 1 in 9 chance that you're from this district. Of course, you also don't have to say what district you're from. That's perfectly acceptable as well. Meanwhile, we'll go back through some of these margins. Still less than half of the vote in. We've been sitting here for almost 2.5 hours, and we've got less than 50, less than even 45% of the vote in some of this. And I get it. I know Indiana, as I've said, it's in two time zones. The Northwest and the Southwest are in Central. The rest is in Eastern. I get it. Monroe County, right here. That is a blue county actually. Bloomington University population, right? So that's a little bit of some knowledge about Indiana. It's always good to have random fragments of trivia to whatever to bring up at a given moment. So yeah, that is the Aaron Houchin district. Nothing really exciting to take a look at in this one. Yeah, not a lot of blue in Indiana, but that you do have a few counties. But yeah, Aaron Houchin, I think she's in her first term, I believe. Going for term number two against Timothy Peck. Let's see, what else do we. Okay, we're waiting on this. We've got 73% in here. Still waiting on a little bit. And this fifth district. Now, everybody losing vote on that vote dump. Everybody lost vote. Must be some of these other people gaining. And we're coming up on, yeah, 2.5 hours on the stream. If you just stopped by, hey, any little bit is appreciated. 13. Again, I didn't have high hopes for a ton of people showing up for this one, but still, like, share, subscribe. Trying to get over 3,000 subscribers pretty soon. And then 4,000, 5,000. That'd be nice. Up till '04, Monroe County voted Republican for president, but locally has been blue since the mid '70s. Around 85,000 in Bloomington, 60,000 in each county, which is far more conservative. Okay. Yeah, well, hey, I cannot confirm that, but that's what the chat is for. Get the fun facts from the ground floor. Getting some Monroe County, Indiana history right here. And Interstate 69 extended through Monroe County. That I know. I could pull out more random things. So what else? Most people are lurking, I'm sure. Maybe they've left the channel open and they're doing what they've got to do. But this is the real-time interaction. You're not going to beat this. This is way better than typing up a comment and possibly getting a response. I do try to reply to most of the comments. Sometimes now there's so many, sometimes they're just not helpful comments, so can't do everything. Mileage Mike did a good video about High 69. He's another YouTuber with a good voice. Should collab. I don't know. I think I gotta get bigger before a serious collaboration, or maybe I never do it. Maybe I'm huge, get really big, and then there's no point in collaborating. I don't know. And I don't know. I might have seen that channel. I'm not sure. I have seen some stuff like that, but I can't recall the specific names. It's hard for me to watch other stuff. It's just I don't have that much time to do everything I need to do. You were against the interstate? You held it up in court for years? But now you've got access to the Southwest. I mean, if you need to go from Evansville to Indy, it's probably gonna make it a little bit more convenient. But that is a digression there. But hey, got to talk about something. But this is a big deal today, if for Indiana. I mean, you're getting all the action right here. It's likely that Jim Banks is going to be your next U.S. Senator and Mike Braun is going to be your next governor. So we'll see what happens. But again, when Mike Pence, when he won his first race in back in 12, he only won by 2, 3 points, I think. Maybe it was 3.5 against John Gregg. So that was close. Then Gregg ran again 4 years later. Yeah, I know a few things about a few states. Been to a lot of places. Know about certain interstates aside from politics. I try to know a little bit about a lot of places. And that's the key to doing a channel like this. Of course, it's always going to vary. You're going to know more about some places, and others you're going to know less about other places. Some places I'm just not that interested in, or I don't know a lot about, but other places I do. I happen to have been, I've heard about the interstate story for a long time. That's something I've heard a lot about. 55% in for governor. At this point, I would say disregard that poll I put out about Braun hitting 2/3. No, they all can't be winners. But yeah, as far as elected people in states, I do try to know more. That's something I'm going to know more about in a variety of states. I remember all that. I think I put up a video. I think it was 2 years ago at this point about naming all 50 governors. That quiz that nobody watched it, but I did that quiz to name all 50. I mean, I got it done. I don't remember what time I had, but I did it pretty quick. I try to remember significant things like that. Knowing who the governors are, who used to be governor, who the senators are, basic things at least. Enough to talk about a variety of states. And plus Indiana, yeah, they've got those vice presidential picks. Pence, Dan Quayle. It's a state people go to for to balance out the ticket. Ohio does it for president. Still waiting on this race here. Stutzman. He's opened up a little bit of a lead, not much, but relative to these margins, he's up over 400 votes. But if you are from this state, excuse me, Maybe you know what's happening here in this U.S. House 13th District. Why is this incumbent with only 16% of the vote, and why are they trailing by 60 points? I don't know where the 13th District is. But that's something that seems notable to me. And now it's gotten a little bit quieter again. It's nice when it's kind of quiet. Then I can go through everything quickly and cover everything. But then when there's nothing to comment on. We're gonna have to go back to any results or any latest news here in New York Times. Hmm. Judge postpones start of Trump documents trial without new date. That seems to be new. Hmm. RFK Jr. invited to Libertarian convention seeks Trump debate. I thought libertarians did not want Kennedy because he just had too many things that didn't align with their philosophy. Supporting Ukraine and Israel, I thought that's a non-starter for the libertarians. Anyway, it's a little bit of an off topic. Still streaming. We're still doing it. And we've got nine, nine people. The 13th is north of Fort Wayne. Okay. I, I believe you. I just can't say why that is. I could look it up, but that would be distracting. So, I mean, you don't see a blowout like that. But again, 16%, and maybe by 100% it narrows up to like 5%. Libertarian Party chair wanted Trump for exposure, invited all candidates to be fair. I see. Okay. Yeah, libertarians do want to increase their exposure. They should have invited Biden then too. Um, yeah. I, so is any are people watching the spinner battle here? Is that something people care? There's only like 8, 9, 10 people here, but is that do you like that series? Do you enjoy the kind of randomness? Even though it's only Matt Rogers actually typing in the chat as of the last 10 minutes. But they did invite Biden. Okay, fair enough. So Marlon Stutzman, again, he's making a comeback. He's trying to. Former U.S. Representative Marlon Stutzman. He did run for the U.S. Senate, I'm pretty sure about that one, but he lost to um, I can't even think of his name at the exact moment. Todd Young, that is it. Just hit me. Is that? I think that's the one he. I'm pretty sure. Somebody could confirm that. Hmm. 71%. Okay, we've got a small vote dump here. Victoria Sparks gains 4/10. And any changes up here? Trump 78.3, Haley 21.7. In Marion County, Trump 66 to 34. U.S. Senate, it's going to be Valerie McRae, Mark Carmichael, who ran for the U.S. House in 1996. He's not going to be the nominee. And of course, Jim Banks, unopposed in that Republican primary, although I think he actually was facing competition, but there was a court case, and John Rust, is that what it was? We could probably pull that up. Yeah, John Rust, he was disqualified. So it's Banks all the way. He's got all the endorsements. He's got Trump. And then for governor, we've got Mike Braun, who's pulling in 39%. He's leaving the U.S. Senate, and he's going to shift into the governor's mansion. Okay, Frank, first comment, I think, today, so appreciate that. You personally don't watch the spinner videos, but you're new to the channel. Really like the hypothetical video I posted today. Okay, gotcha. If you're brand new, then yeah, I understand. Uh, the 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 Tester Youngkin video. Yeah, that got suggested to me 4 or 5 months ago, probably, maybe 6, and I finally put it up. I put up a variety of content. I try to put up the hypotheticals once in a while. Some people don't like the hypotheticals, and other people like them, and other people like a certain other kind of video I do. So I try to keep the variety. As we head more into the election, though, it's going to be more coverage about polling and that kind of thing, as we're getting more into it was 6 months away now. But the spinner battles are pretty good. They do take some setup, but it's good random fun. It's a distraction, as I always say. Some people like that element of random. That's exciting for them, and you pick somebody and see what they do. So we've got a good finals there between John F. Kennedy and George W. Bush. It's a battle of the middle initials. But yeah, if you're into the hypotheticals, I've got probably made over 100 of those, and some of them are old. I made them 2 years ago or more. Some of them are a year and a half old, and I would change them if I made them again a little bit. But they're all a snapshot in time. I think you could have, I always say you could emphasize different things and come up with a different result. So I try to lay it out there, split it down the middle, and go through them. But Tester and Youngkin is a good matchup. Seemingly they would be strong candidates, in theory. All right. The vote is trickling in still. Okay, we've got it called here by the AP. Sparts. She's going to win it over Chuck Goodrich. She's at 39. That's about what Mike Braun is pulling in for governor statewide. Goodrich has an advantage in this county, Delaware. But Sparts, oh, I would have been surprised if she was not the nominee. She's already in office right now. She's I don't know how much the Ukrainian thing helps her, but she decided she's not going to run for reelection, then pulled it back and said she is going to run. So that opened up the door to a primary challenge, I guess. But she's going back. So we're waiting on this one. I don't know if this is ever going to be called, actually. I mean, tonight. Although Marlon Stutzman has now opened up almost a 1% lead. It's just under that. It gives us something to take a look at. If everything was called, I don't know what we would take a look at. Next week, there might be another stream if you're looking to completely clear your schedule and get on here and follow a stream. We might do it again. It's not a guarantee. It's hard to promise what would happen in another week, but that might happen. That I'm leaning towards being able to fit it in and pull it off, but not positive. There's definitely going to be more to look at then. And polling. Oh, they have updated this. We've got Muhlenberg College. This must have just dropped here on Real Clear Politics. They polled the same thing as Fabrizio Anzalone. And they've got a kind of a almost identical margins here. Trump is up 3, 44 to 41. The margin is one off, but the percentages are definitely different. There's less support here for both Biden and Trump. And it doesn't look like a three-way race was polled here on these. And we've got McCormick in the Senate trailing Casey by 4, 45 to 41. Again, that's a reduction from the other poll. But very consistent from these two poll drops for PA. Interesting. Here's your key battles, though. Trump ahead in all of them. I just put out a video yesterday that updated the map based on the current polling. And Trump has continued to maintain an advantage, even though there was a little bit of speculation that Biden might be gaining some ground in the polls over the past 3 or 4 weeks because of Trump being in court and unable to campaign, and there was a lot of coverage about his trial. But it doesn't seem like it's hurting Trump all that much, if at all. Oh, actually, I just noticed that's not Frank. It's Fark. So for the official record, I've corrected it because when you glance at it, it does look like Frank. There's no question about it. But we've cleared that up. Um, but we're looking at Marlon Stutzman. Interesting name. He might be going back to Congress if he could hold this lead over Tim Smith and Wendy Davis and Andy Zay, who has been in the lead in multiple occasions in this primary. Okay, this has narrowed up definitely a little bit. This state rep 13th district for the Republican side. It's still a big gap, 22 points, but it's not 60 points anymore. But that is a big gap for the 13th district here in the state house. Other incumbents possibly in danger. I don't see anything else really that close down here. Here is one right here, 69th district. That has the incumbent down by a couple of points. And in the state senate, on the Dem side, we've got this incumbent trailing actually pretty bad here with half of the vote in, only at 36% for Vinzant. I would have put out a video covering this primary in advance, but I put out the primary for Pennsylvania video in advance, and that thing tanked hard. So it didn't seem like there was any reason to do a whole video on this primary. Plus, we're doing the stream. Coming up on 3 hours. And it got really quiet here. The last 45 minutes, it really dropped off. I would think people would be maybe have more time the later it gets. We're down to just 5. Wow, it really dropped off. It's tough to do the streams for 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. But it's dedication. I'm at least gonna hit 3 hours. And then we'll see what happens. I know some people were here, they said they have to leave, they're gonna come back. But I get it. It's just Indiana's primary. It's not really that juicy. So everybody doing all right? That's the question, right? Hopefully everybody's having a reasonable day. How many views make one of your videos a success in your mind? Well, you're gonna get an answer right away because there's nothing else going on. Well, you got to compare it. I don't have a set number of views because it's always kind of varies, and it should theoretically slowly increase over time, the expectation, as the channel expands. But in what does stand out in that Pennsylvania video, that one was significantly lower. It was, I think, under half of the average, whatever the average might be for other videos. So if it was a clear drop off, so that's an example of where it was kind of not a success. But some videos I don't get a ton of views. The spinner battles, the coin flips, that stuff usually doesn't get a ton, but I think enough people do enjoy those. There's a storyline to follow, and it's exciting. You don't know what's going to happen. Plus, I have fun making them. So those I'll do, but some of them do get, some of the coin flips really have flopped because it's too random candidates. So I try to deliver on a lot of the requests, but you know, at some point I've got to be tactful and avoid some that I think are either not that interesting for me or ones I would think that would be not very interesting for a wide audience. So I think it'd be nice to pull in, I don't know, probably over 1,000 views on average on a video based on what I'm getting. Some are going to hit 600, some are going to hit 2,000. but somewhere in that vicinity. But of course, over time, it should go up. I mean, if we discussed that a year ago, it would be way less than that. But I mean, I'm over 900 videos, over 2 years, every day, at least one video. And some of these take a while to make. And hopefully the channel can expand even more and consistently expand. Like to get it over 3,000 pretty soon, and then go up to 4, 5. See where things are at. See what we can get to before the election. All right. We got a close one here in the 7th district. Haven't looked at this yet on the Republican side. I mean, it doesn't really matter because this is a blue district. But Jennifer Pace is leading it. And if you just looked at these primary numbers, Andre Carson with almost 70% of the vote in, there's 18,000 votes. And for the Republicans, with only 30% of the votes in, they're at 12,500. Now, this is a blue district. The Democrats should win this very easily in the general election. But I don't know why, with way more of the vote in, the Democrats only have a little bit more of the total votes. That's why I don't think the primary means a ton for the general election, but who knows? Maybe that district trend's right. So we're waiting on. Oh, here comes a vote dump. Stutzman gains a half a point. He's trying to get to a 1,000 vote advantage, but I don't know if he's going to do it. He's got a 1.3% advantage in the margin. I never know if people watch every video I put out or if they skip some of them, if they skip a lot of them and they only watch maybe 20% because they're only into a certain kind, or I'm sure there's a range of what people watch, but it's always a curiosity to know what people actually watch. And do they watch the entire video? Do they watch part of it? I've got all kinds of data and metrics that I can look at, but it doesn't tell you everything. I am surprised Braun only pulled in under 40 right now. I thought he was already, there wasn't a lot of polling, but he was already around 40, maybe even more. And there was a lot of undecideds. It just seemed like they could break for him. But again, there was a debate. Maybe something happened in the past week with Braun. And how about the Republicans not having a competitive primary here for the U.S. Senate? This open seat in a red state, you think there'd be tons of them jumping in, but it's just Jim Banks. For once they avoid the intra-party dispute. So we've got Haley getting 30% in a few of these counties, but not in Monroe. Yeah, there's not much competitive here in the U.S. House. I mean, Frank Mervan, again, he's probably the most vulnerable out of anybody, but that's not saying a lot. He should win by single digits, but it could be by more than five. He's an incumbent. It's a blue leaning district. It's hard to think. If he went down, that would be a surprise. I would think Republicans would have picked up a lot of seats if Mervan goes down. Okay, over 80% here now. So yeah, it has really gotten very quiet. That could be a sign to shut it down pretty soon. We've hit 3 hours. I mean, we've hit 3 hours. I mean, that's a full stream, you know? Not much going on. Still one race uncalled. At least one race of any consequence. So, so anything else on anybody's mind? Any races upcoming for today, for Indiana, or for the upcoming primaries? Maybe the general election. What's what are you looking at? Do you think it's going to be extremely narrow, or do you think Trump has it in the bag, Biden has it in the bag? Still waiting on the running mate selection for Trump. That's the big unknown. Could be a game changer. We'll see if what happens with that trial. Maybe there's a conviction. Maybe there's an acquittal. We just don't know. And let's go back. Nothing else. We've got Braun under 39% now. Hmm. How many of these Nikki Haley voters are going to vote for Trump in the general? How many of them maybe were Democrats that might have crossed over? You're looking at 538. And latest out of Washington is Trump up by 5. Somebody mentioned that the other day. I actually did not see that yet. I haven't gotten around to it. I don't think it's not on Real Clear Politics. So, I mean, if Trump is up by 5 in Washington, yeah, I mean, that's way too wild for me. I don't think he'd even get it under 10. But if it's just, I got to see what else that poll shows. But I'm not familiar with the pollster. But I can't imagine that race even being competitive. I know there was some talk last time in the midterms. Patty Murray, maybe she'll be vulnerable. And I was like, nah, I don't think so, but maybe. And I don't. And I thought maybe we get under 10, even though I still had her. I don't think I ever had it down to likely. I think I had a best case scenario video. I had Murray winning by likely, but I thought she was going to win it by over 10, and she did. But sometimes you get some polls in the election season. It shows some crazy stuff. But Trump up by 5, that seems way, way outside expectations. Uh, Washington, I poll only poll 250. Okay, that's not a lot. You gotta. I don't even like anything even under 500. Sometimes they do the 400 thing, but I'd like to see 800. But I get it. Sometimes 500, even 400, if you have multiple polls, that might suffice. Especially because Washington's not polled that much. Did they poll the governor's race there? That's the question. Yeah, they must have polled people from outside of King County if Trump is up by 5. Yeah, Real Clear Politics. It's been kind of quiet here the last few days this month. Texas poll from the UT, they're showing Trump up 8 and 9 in a three-way race or five-way race. And the Senate, Cruz is up 13 points. That's significant stuff considering he only won by 2.5 at 18. So 6 years later, if Cruz wins by double digits, that would be really wild. What else? Not really much news here today. Or at least as far as Indiana goes. Hmm. Yeah, there's all this stuff in politics. There's a lot of burnout it does get tiring hearing about all this stuff. It's easy to just tune it all out. That's why I think a lot of voters don't pay attention until the final week, final month, final 2 months of election season. Because there's just, it's overwhelming. You don't know what to believe. There's a lot of candidates, plus it's Trump and Biden, Biden and Trump. A lot of people are tired of that. So they're not going to really pay attention. So that's why I don't put a ton of stock into the polls right now. But you got to take a look at them and just see what they show, especially in the aggregate. So we're really just waiting on this to see who's going to be the GOP nominee in this third congressional district, because they're likely to win the general election. It might be Marlon Stutzman who's making a comeback. Only four people. I think, unless it explodes here, it's going to be winding down here within the next 20 minutes. So that's all. That's the heads up. I mean, it's hard to keep a stream going for less than 8 people for hours. Then we got up to 16 at least. I don't know, something like that. If we do one next week, there'll probably be more to take a look at, more people showing up. %82 still. And we've got a small update here. Braun gains 0.1%. Okay, we've got something here. You clicked on the report. It's for West Coast states, and all the other states make sense except Washington. Hmm. They just, I don't know how they sampled. They must have missed King County. That that's all I can come up with. Yeah. I mean, with only 250, maybe they just did it randomly and they just happened to not hit up much. But I would think they should wait the results still and uh, look at the data they've gotten before they put out a poll that totally defies everybody's expectations. I'm gonna have to take. I'll take a look at that poll at some point. I would guess in Oregon, Trump is down and Biden is up probably by 16 points or something. But then again, I don't know. If they're only polling 250 and it's 6 months out, I don't know. And I don't know if they use third party candidates. That margin of error, though, has got to be like 8 points or something. It is weird how it got. It just the. I think it seems like everybody left like an hour ago. Everybody just got up at the same time and decided to call it. Well, yeah, there's not much happening. Just keeping it going just a little bit longer. 10, 15 minutes. The plan is to shut it down. Unless like 10 people show up out of nowhere. But yeah, it is kind of depressing when there's one, two, three people in here. So, any last minute questions, comments, concerns? This might be a good time to the couple of people in here. Wonder if the guy at the supermarket still has me on. I kept it on for a while. New comment here. Will Trump win Indiana? Yes, he is very likely to win the state of Indiana. And it's likely to be double digits. That one I can actually answer pretty confidently. A lot of times I'll have a lot of leeway, but not this one. But thanks for stopping by or showing up or however long anybody's been here. So we've got a lot of questions answered. Not that there were that many that were asked, but it's going to be Haley with about 21, 22% here. And Valerie McRae is going to face Jim Banks for the U.S. Senate. And Mike Braun is going to face Jennifer McCormick for governor. The Republicans should be winning all of these comfortably. But you never know what's going to happen. Scandal could come up. Will he win? Will Trump win the 2024 election? Is it possible for him to get through these court trials? Well, yeah, it's definitely possible, especially considering only one of them is actually happening and the other ones are pretty much delayed. They might never happen or they might happen after the election. So the only one that's mostly a question is this one that's happening now in New York, and that one, it's been underway for some weeks now. Uh, if he's acquitted in that trial, which is definitely possible, then that's absolutely gonna have to help him. It can't hurt him, and I don't think it's really neutral. If he is convicted, I don't think that would help him. That's what I think. I don't know if it would totally destroy him because a lot of people don't think this trial is the most important one, but it could hurt him temporarily. That's a possibility. Would he actually serve jail time? That's probably unlikely, but again, we just don't know. So yeah, he could get through the trials. especially because there's just the one pretty much going on. But there's no guarantees in politics. So Stutzman has opened up a little bit of a lead now in this third district. And the stream, we're going to be winding it down here in the next 10 minutes. Given that it kind of dried up, the results came in, covered everything we're going to cover. Might be a stream next week for Maryland, Nebraska, and West Virginia. It's not a guarantee, but it might happen. So, any other last minute questions or comments? Hopefully, everybody enjoyed this 3 to 3.5 hour stream. Tried to cover the results the best that I can. Well, thanks for asking. It's just one person's opinion, though. Other people might tell you something different, but I think I covered it or I think I answered it as fairly as I could. And now a few other people looks like they've shown up. But either way, thanks for stopping by. Always remember to like, subscribe, share, join, donate, whatever you'd like to do to help support the channel. Trying to get over 3,000 subs. And this is Indiana, pretty much wrapped up. No real upsets. Maybe in the state legislature, that's a possibility. Couple incumbents in danger of losing. But other than that, it's going to be McRae and Banks in the Senate, Braun and McCormick for governor, and 3 open seats in the U.S. House. The last one that we don't know for sure is in the 3rd. Marlon Stutzman is trying to make a comeback here for the Republicans. But a lot of people winning counties here in this 3rd district. It's a close one. 5 candidates in double digits. And all these districts are red except 2 of them. And none of them are really all that competitive, except the 1st district is the most competitive, but still does lean blue. And Victoria Spartz, she won her primary. In the 5th district, she fended off a challenge from Chuck Goodrich. So everything called, anything of consequence has been called except this. %86 of the vote in. Before it was looking like this is going to be a recount. It was nearly tied. But that changed. So for those that have shown up, hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you got at least a little bit of information, maybe a little bit of entertainment out of it. And, can't keep them going forever, especially with only 5 people in here. But I wanted to get on to a stream. Sat on here for 3.5 hours, just about. So I think we're going to be winding it down here any minute. But I think it was a good stream. Indiana, Red State, not that competitive, but those are the results. The final margins are yet to be known, but no major upsets, no moderate upsets. And it looks like Indiana is pretty much in the books. Again, there might be a stream next week, so check for that, see if it comes up. And I think we're going to wind this one down. So, again, it's been great. It's nice to see some people, see some regulars, some new people. And I think that's about it. So, remember to like, share, subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Take a look at new videos every day. Hope everybody has a great night. And that's it. I'll see you on the next video.